Hello, and thanks for joining us on the podcast that discusses all things gaming. Coming to you from the home of Gen Con and the gaming capital of the world, this is The Established Facts. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 103, coming to you from Gen Con Day 3 here in Indianapolis, Indiana. And we have our very good friend with us this evening, Tracy Hickman, and we'll get to his introduction here in just a minute. But let's go ahead and go around the table and tell you who's with us.
I'm Avital.
I'm Josh Prime.
Hi guys, Dragonlance Heinzelman here.
You're killing me, dude. You're just killing me. This is Adam Gottfried.
This is Josh.
This is Dr. Deb.
And this is Anton.
And of course, this is your host, Big Don, and our special guest, if you will.
Hi. This is day 3 of Gen Con. What more can we expect?
That's right.
I'm Tracy Hickman. I'm the guest.
Not really a guest, more of just...
I don't know, I think he's more frequent than some of the other podcasts.
Definitely. We've had you on here more than we've had Jen Page, even though we see her all the time. Jen Page.
I know. That was, I didn't even get a chance to stop by and say hi to her this week.
I know.
How about recurring character?
Yeah,
sure.
It may be annual, but it's still recurring.
Absolutely, I think that works just great.
So
we are at day 3 at Gen Con, so all of us are completely wiped out.
Oh, yeah.
At this point, we're all characters, and there's not much you're going to be able to do about
that. All the world's a stage, and we just happen to be pausing between scenes.
The one past podcast of the year that we fly people in to talk to others. Utah, Wisconsin, and Florida represented.
Yeah.
I drove in.
Minnesota.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, dude, seriously, why would you accuse me of being from Wisconsin?
Because you're cheesy?
Oh. Who's cheesy? Yeah.
Don't look at me, Adam. I mean, he said it just because we're married. I do not
You gave me the rim shot.
I did.
That's true. You did.
So we're covering 4 states.
Yeah, this is a 4-state podcast right now, man.
It's a 4-state podcast.
Wow.
Utah, Minnesota / Wisconsin, so I guess Florida, and of course Indiana. So,
Hey Don, what are we talking about today?
okay, so for episode 103, now normally when we get together with Tracy, it's the Wednesday before Gen Con, so we're all still jacked up. We've got tons of energy. Nobody
Very
feels
excited.
like crud. We're super excited. Well, this is day 3 of Gen Con, so it's going to be a little bit different. Still a lot of fun. We're going to have a great time. But it's going to be a little different.
Insert depressing topic now.
Yeah, no. So most of us at this table, well, I could probably say all of us at this table, in some way or another, are role players, tabletop role players, video game role players. And one thing that several of us at the table have experienced in our role-playing lives and careers is a really cool, really creepy, really
terrifying.
Unforgiving, setting of Ravenloft in the Dungeons & Dragons world. And Tracy has obviously had a huge influence on what that world looks like. But we're going to get into a versus topic first, and I'm going to let Tracy define the characters in this versus topic, just so everybody has as much knowledge as they can get from the source. So our versus topic for episode 103 is Lord Soth versus Strahd von Zarovich. So, Tracy, if you could give us a little bit of information on these two characters.
There's no little bit of information about.
Well, okay.
A little bit of it.
I know there's not. There's not a little
right
bit.
into episode 104.
Hey, you know what? If that's what it takes, doggone it, that's what we're gonna do.
I know nothing about the characters, so you can really give me like a little bit.
Wow.
Blank
No
slate.
pressure there.
at all.
I'm the newest.
Oh,
True.
All right.
She's our baby gamer.
She's all new and shiny.
All right.
That did not help, did it?
Get ready to add a black spot to your heart.
yes.
Count Strahd is a tragic romance. Tragic because of who he is. Count Strahd was actually a prince in his realm. He and his brother were the hope of the realm, and had gone. But it was the elder brother, Count Strahd, who had gone to war, and had found himself steeled by war and his heart chilled by war to a great extent. At the conclusion of the war, one of the places that had been taken was a place called Barovia, and he determined to put war behind him and settle there. Built an enormous castle, Ravenloft, atop a pillar of rock, and proceeded to try to put his life back together. He fell in love, however, with a local woman by the name of Irina Kolyana, and unfortunately, she was repulsed by him. The war had left him bitter and hardened. But she did fall in love with her brother, or his brother, rather. That would be really
Very awkward.
It's a horror setting for an entirely different reason.
So she fell in love, however, with Strahd's brother. On the day of her wedding, speaking of awkward, Count Strahd had entered into a dark pact in order to win her instead, which resulted in the death of his brother, and what appeared to be her suicide as a result. All of this left him undead, Strahd undead, as a vampire in Ravenloft, and then proceeded to curse the land from there. So that kind of covers Strahd von Zarovich, who is a true vampire, unlike so many we see today.
He does not sparkle in the sun, folks.
No, he does not sparkle in the sun.
I am convinced those are fairies, not vampires.
And
is a
yes,
debate for
I'm going
another
to go
time.
along
Yes.
with that,
That's
actually.
true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Start a fight.
Well, yes, and please don't get me started on sparkly vampires because it's a bad place for me.
That's 104.
That is, yeah.
That's after we're tired.
That might be one we want to record on side project.
That
There may be profanity.
is the darkness.
Strahd is a truly cursed soul, and he is a Bluebeard. He is a user, an abuser, and cannot understand or comprehend compassion. And yes, he is a true vampire. Lord Soth, you'd think these guys actually get along because they have so much in common. Lord Soth was a Solomonic knight in the Dragonlance setting. And Lord Soth was a too-good knight, actually. And in his particular case, he also became cursed as undead and and entered into this curse with a number of elven clerics, I believe, who were there to assist him in his quest for power. This also involved his love for a woman that was forbidden, and
He was married, was he not?
he was, yeah, and determined to kill his wife, as I recall, in order to have this other woman. The stain of her death remains forever in the center of his tower. And he sits on his throne and broods over the stain that covers the floor where his wife died. He is a bad man.
He's a
He is a bad
Sorry.
man.
It's okay.
Sorry.
It's all right, Adam.
There's one
Now-
bad Mario jump.
Now, what is interesting is that both of these characters appear to have gone to the same realm. At some point, Strahd, I think, was rather surprised to see Lord Soth arrive in the realm of Ravenloft, as was I.
Did they tell you this was happening before it happened?
No.
No. So he just
And
suddenly
in fact,
appeared there
in
one
my
day.
Yes, he did appear there one day, and in fact, in my own mind, the whole distasteful thing takes on the certain aspects of one of those very special television episodes where a character from another series appears completely in a crossover and makes no sense really why they're here.
Oh, yeah.
R2-D2 meets the Fraggles?
Yeah,
that
pretty
kind of
much
thing?
something like that. Yes. One expects that with the Muppets, but nowhere else. And so, for a time, Lord Soth was a big character in Ravenloft at one point in that sort of bizarre special guest star slot.
We had his own realm for a while in Ravenloft.
Well,
if I
yes,
recall
he did. I
correctly.
mean,
It
they
was a
tried to
little
set him up
ridiculous.
very nicely. They asked him if he wanted a trailer. Yes, he wanted a trailer. He wanted...
Do you want your banshees to come? Yeah, I want my
I want
banshees
the
to come
banshees to have to
along.
come
I gotta
to
have a
the
choir.
phone.
I mean, that's the thing.
No, see, they're country stars.
Oh,
Now. You
jeez.
missed out on this.
Oh, God.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's-
We had a whole rendition of Ravenloft Got Talent
it's true.
at
horrifying
Hickman's Killer
thing.
Breakfast
It was
this
terrible.
morning.
Well, actually, it was Nareka's Got Talent.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
That's
but,
right.
Everybody buzzed him off. It was sad. But so, yes, Lord Soth is a Death Knight, which means that he has immense powers in terms of causing death. And in fact, he is an overpowering presence. He's actually a problem for the writers of Dragonlance. I can tell you for a fact, because whenever he comes on stage, he takes it over. And then Margaret and I would have to beat him back with a stick and then get him off the page. And
Go
Stop
back.
that. Go back.
Go back in your hole.
We got to get back to the plot. And then we'd go back
brood.
to the plot for a while, and then he'd show up again, and off we'd go with him because he was more interesting than anything. We were
Sounds like a bad soap opera. Like the guy from 20 years ago is back, and he's not dead.
He's not dead.
Isn't his power, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this because I'm remembering maybe poorly, isn't his power directly derived from the Dark Goddess from Takesis?
I believe so. Yeah. He also had a thing for Kitiara at one point,
That was creepy.
which was really, that was just wrong.
For those who don't know, Katiara, blue high dragon lord.
Lady. Well, and I gotta say that the Legends trilogy was the first real, like, pure fantasy book I was ever handed in my late teens. And, like, 'cause, I'd read C.S. Lewis and whatever, and that is pure fantasy, but, this was a different ilk for me. So, like, these are all near and dear to my heart, so I'm like, yay!
So I guess the question is, how do they square off, right?
That's exactly it.
Yeah, you put them in a cage match here. Is that what we're doing? And
I think,
kinda, yeah.
I think that's fairly accurate.
We tend to take an approach with most of these versus topics. We'll either direct it like specifically, like we're putting them in a battlefield. Boom, who's going to win the fight? Or just purely who's your favorite. I mean, that's kind of what's worked out
Whose
for us
story
so far.
strikes
So,
you more?
do we
powerfully?
want to go pure on who do you think win in a fight, or just who do you prefer?
My own belief in this actually is that neither of these would condescend
Yeah.
to a fight.
Yeah.
Correct.
Both of them are. Both of them believe themselves to be far superior to anything else that's out there, which one would tend to think would cause them to fight. But in fact, they have bigger things to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, it would be similar to like if you had Lex Luthor versus the Joker. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily see them. Just shush.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't necessarily see them going against each other because they're both of such high
Our
presence.
DC comic people look at you like,
shut up.
stop it.
No. I'm just saying it's
Would
in
they
my
condescend to fight
opinion,
each other? No,
right?
they have other
would-
things to do.
Then I'll throw a curveball at it. Vote for president. Lord Soth.
I did announce my candidate.
Hickman, 2016.
I moved to Canada.
Amen.
Hickman, 2016. The only campaign where you still get to use the 2012 shirt.
I'm telling you, I think that's just indicative of our fiscal policy. It's a good shirt. Why do we need a new one?
It's so
Amen.
I
wonder if I-
bomber, it's still working.
I'm not sure if I still own Stop Hickman. That was like 3 years ago, where you had the Stop Hickman stuff.
Oh my goodness.
I bought the domain sitting in the audience.
There you go.
There you go. Let's do that. Seriously, let's.
All right. If you were going to vote for the
President.
greater of two, or the lesser of two evils,
Death by substitute.
I'll jump off the mountain
Well,
that girl did.
I have to admit that one of the problems I think that I had with Ravenloft and some of the later incarnations is that it was so oppressively
Evil?
Dark.
Dark, yeah.
Dark.
See, one of the things I think that makes horror horrific is that you need contrast.
Yeah.
You have to be fighting for something. There has to at least be some ray
Semblance of
light.
hope.
Yeah, some semblance of hope. It is actually the dashing of those hopes that actually springs some emotion.
Yes.
If you just happen to be living in a place that's incredibly depressing, if everything is oppressive in Barovia, it's
Everybody just kind of gives up.
Then it's normal. It's just an everyday.
Well,
you're
yeah,
living in a
then
horror,
it's-
but it's still an
Now
everyday.
you're just living in tyranny. It's just-
it's just my life.
Right.
Right.
Right, yeah.
If there's no semblance of that guy's got it better.
Right.
Yeah, or there's something better possible
Right.
than what I have, and I think that was one of the problems that I had actually with Ravenloft was, at least in its later incarnations, was that it seemed so overwhelmingly oppressive.
Yeah.
That there was no hope. There was no, I think I said to somebody once, if I lived in Barovia, I'd slit my wrist.
Yeah, right.
So much easier than having to deal with it.
Right.
Why do people live here? People have to live here for a reason. They exist here for a reason. And, or as they say in Cold Comfort Farm, why don't they just sell the cursed farm and move to a different shire?
Yeah.
Other than a presidential election, may I contend another possibility?
Please.
In my understanding of both of these characters, they ultimately both serve a higher power in one form or another. Soth is still beholden to Takesis in some way, and Strahd, excuse me,
Takesis, evil dragon deity.
she's the evil goddess in Dragonlance. She's the big main bad.
Though, I would take issue with that.
Would you?
I would take issue with that, and I would take issue with that because I don't think either of them perceive themselves as being beholden to anyone.
Yeah, I would agree.
Correct. However, I would say that Takesis could manipulate Soth into doing what she wanted him to do.
And maybe that is, in fact, the fine distinction between it. That though they believe themselves to be independent, they actually are both enslaved by who they have, by the choices that they have made.
Mm-hmm.
So my contention would be that whatever higher power that they are beholden to, whether they're aware of that burden or not, has manipulated them into a situation where they have to come into conflict. And who would come out on top of that conflict?
Right. So Takesis wants her Death Knight back from this terrible crossover episode.
Okay, we've seen it, guys. It's done. It's over. I want him back. Sorry, let's get him back where he belongs.
He needs to go back to his show.
He has many more Kinder to squash.
Oh, so sad.
Does that work?
Yeah. So in other words, we're back to a fight again.
Conflict does not necessarily denote
Okay,
a fight.
fine.
That's true.
Fine.
You can define it
A
however
heavy
you
debate.
want.
Lance,
Whatever.
you had something?
If we're going to choose who we prefer based on that, I will sit out because I have a choice, but it's not based on combat. It's not based on anything. It's based on their story
I'm joining
See, I would
Lance
agree
on
with
that
that.
one.
I would
I'm with
agree with
Lance.
the most.
We are role players.
I'm gonna
We
have
tell
to go with
stories.
that one.
So
I
make
say
your
story.
make your choice and explain why you chose it. If it means
Oh, I
it was
like
via
that.
story,
Yeah.
Done. All right.
Okay.
So we'll make the choice first, and then we'll see
like
where
we
we're at.
normally do?
Yes.
Sounds good.
Well, he's explaining it for those of us that aren't on the mics all the time, Lance.
Some people may just be listening because Tracy's on, or Adam's on.
I
because
can't believe that.
Mostly because of him. I'm just here to add profanity to this podcast.
Hey,
Stop
there
it.
you go.
Not enough Mario jokes.
All right. So let's go ahead and we'll
we love
start.
you, Nintendo. Please don't sue us.
Avital, I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt, and I'll let you go last. You know, like it being at Denny's and giving the order last because you're not really sure what you want.
Well, because at least this way she can hear a little bit more, because you're just going to give a reason based on their stories. This way she can hear all of the reasons.
No, we're going around and saying what
We're making a
we-
choice first.
and
And then we
we're
describe
making
after
reasons.
everybody's made their
Oh,
choice.
whatever.
All right, so
Anyways.
I'd like to start with Tracy.
Oh Lord, no pressure.
Tracy's like, now, hold on.
Choose between children.
I'm pretty sure he was the ref. He was wearing the ref
check
hat.
that? I mean,
Yellow card.
I think actually that they are. I think they're balanced in match. Their stories are somewhat similar in the tragic nature of their curse. We know more, I think, about Lord Soth than we do about Strahd. But having said that, and knowing Strahd better than I think most people do, certainly better than is on the page. I think that they're both archetypical of the Bluebeard, and that while Soth is more brutish and Strahd is more sophisticated, they are both essentially warriors. And so, truthfully, I think that in terms of the strength of story and character, although they would take different approaches to conflict, I think that they're almost perfectly matched in terms of balance. If I were to give odds on the fight, they'd be even.
Okay. Adam.
That was no help at all.
That's okay. That's all right.
Fence is a viable option.
We do allow that.
I am going to hold that note for a long time. I don't think either would win. In very similar reasons to
So
what
you're on the
Chris
fence.
said.
You're just on the opposite side of the fence. You're under the fence.
That's very
Yeah.
not true. I'm not on the fence at all. I don't think either one would win.
Okay.
And I will explain that when we get to that point.
Okay.
But
Lance. Strahd. All right. Joshy.
I'm actually going to have to go with Soth.
Okay. Prime.
I'm gonna go with Strahd.
Anton.
Strahd.
Debbie.
right.
I'm gonna. I want to sit on the fence, but I'm gonna say Strahd and probably regret it in 10 seconds. I'll say Strahd.
Well, considering it's a fictional discussion, I doubt you'll regret it that much.
Well,
It's really
Avital.
not that bad.
Based on the information you have.
My reason is so weird, but I'll say Strahd.
Strahd? Okay. I'm going to agree with Strahd. But I think my reasoning is probably very similar to Lance's.
So Josh is the only Soth.
So Joshy, why Soth over Strahd?
yourself.
Okay, so based off, I will admit I've not read much of either story other than what we've experienced in our own role-playing experiences and the stuff that Tracy's done in the Killer Breakfasts. I did run through D&D's re-release of the Expedition in Castle Ravenloft.
Which was so much fun.
We experienced one side of that story, but it also kind of got cut a little short but that was all against Strahd. So, to me, Strahd and Soth, though I see the now comparisons between them, how they're very similar, that their love has been lost to them and they are now kind of victims of their own decisions and are constantly trying to pursue a different goal. I feel that Strahd it may be a different goal, but it's almost like he's trying to pursue the same goal as well. His is everything we experienced with Strahd. He's locked in Barovia, and he was always trying to find some way to bring back his love, or always try to find some way to get out of Barovia to find something else. Or there was even one of the stories we played through, we were to kill Strahd because Strahd wanted us to. He still fought, whereas Soth is everything I've experienced with Soth is he's kind of a cold-hearted jerk. He's all for good reasons, but it's almost like when his love died, the heart was ripped out and pretty much said,
And fed
I don't care. I will do whatever for whatever reason. So if Takesis managed to make Soth believe that he can defeat and should and will defeat Strahd, and at the same time the Dark Powers have managed to convince Strahd that he needs to take out Soth because it might bring back his love. Strahd's fighting for love, and Soth is fighting just cuz. I think that makes him more dangerous.
Yeah, he's got nothing to lose.
I actually, in listening to the discussion so far, I'm going to almost change my vote, which is to say I agree with you.
Yeah.
And I believe that in a combat between the two, or conflict between the two, they would both lose.
They would destroy each other.
They would, well, whether they would destroy each other,
Or just fight to a stalemate.
or just fight to a stalemate. I suspect actually that the stalemate is probably more likely, and the reason I say that is because in both of the universes here, there is ultimate good, ultimate chaos, ultimate evil, and that there are eternal forces that are at play here. Both of these individuals have broken nature, and because of that, they are both cursed. And that the extent of that curse, I think, would extend even to the concept of them fighting one another. That one of the basic fundamental tenets of Dragonlance, foundational tenets of Dragonlance, are that good redeems its own, which is not to say that it wins.
Right.
That evil feeds upon itself. In other words, sows its own destruction, seeds of its own destruction. And it is the motion between the two that gives motion to the universe. And so, from the second axiom, I would say that yes, evil feeds upon itself, sows the seeds of its own destruction. So, pitting evil against evil is actually a statement of that very concept, and that therefore, by definition of the universe, they would both lose. Wow, that was deep.
That was good,
man.
I have no idea how we're supposed to follow that.
Lance.
Can I throw in mine real quick?
Yes.
Mine
Adam,
is
go
very
ahead.
similar to what he had said. Everything you said I agree with. But I also kind of voted that way to begin with, so it really wasn't.
So no wonder you agree.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of hoping for Jane, you ignorant slut.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me.
I may have to let that one go.
It wasn't me, I swear.
It's an S word, but not the one we normally
Ultimately, yes. What you said, one of the basic tenets of the whole Dragonlance concept is that evil ultimately feeds upon itself and causing its own destruction. Also from looking at it from a kind of a technical standpoint, in terms of like magical ability and power or whatever, they're fairly evenly matched as far as I'm concerned. So then it becomes down to technical skill. But as observed, Strahd was a warrior, Soth was a warrior. So technical skill, they're very, very evenly matched. So really what it's going to come down to is which of their kind of shadows, the dark goddess or the dark powers, are willing to funnel enough power through the two of them to defeat. But you can't do that. I mean, they're just not... They're equal partners. So, yeah, they're going to fight to a complete stalemate.
Don't ever refer to them as partners.
Partners is the wrong term.
Well, no, because if you refer to them as partners in this situation, we're in trouble. Yeah. Because they've realized what's happened, and now they've turned on the rest of the world.
We're all dead.
Yep.
Equal. And we're looking at a really ugly buddy picture.
This is the worst buddy cop movie I've ever seen. Equal parties, and ultimately they will either fight to a stalemate or utterly destroy each other. And in so doing, very likely utterly destroy the dark powers that fueled them in the first place.
And Barovia.
And very possibly Dragonlance, depending on how far that range fight. I mean,
it's true.
And Kryn, just gone. So, yeah.
Did you guys hear that? Yeah, it's just a planet exploding.
Every Dragonlance fan and Ravenloft fan listening right now, their brains just exploded, man.
I heard it.
All right, Lance, you chose Strahd.
I did.
Why?
I tried to pick the character I identify with the most. When I first learned of Ravenloft, I was severely depressed. I had just lost someone that I loved very much, and could very much identify with the total lack of emotion that comes with losing someone. The utter despair at what could I have done. Did I do something to make this happen? The absolute terror that comes with finding out that maybe you did have something to do with it. And then I grew up.
I totally want to give you a hug right now, man.
I left everything I knew behind and I joined the military. And I went to war. And as a result of that, I did get desensitized to much of the emotional spectrum. Honey and daughter, if you're listening, this doesn't apply to you.
I told you.
But I found that my relationship with my family, to include my own parents, was different, was skewed, was...
Just kind of a shell of
there was some
itself.
kind of barrier in between where there never was before. Blood thicker than water, yes, but now, like, somebody added something to it. It wasn't as strong. I didn't enjoy life like I did before. And I still struggle with that today. I'm medicated for your protection. And so that further fueled my link with the Count. There's just something about him that I get on an interpersonal level. Now, I like horror stories. I can tell a good tale, as we did on the Halloween episode. We kind of talked about this a little bit. That is a great, scary story. And I like the way that Tracy wrote about it in a comment to me. It is a dark romance. That ultimately Strahd does what he does for love. And he hurts the ones he loves. And he hates himself. And I felt that when I learned about him, when I learned about who he was, and when I delved further into his character. So, summing all that up into a TLDR, I identify with Count Strahd. End of story.
All right. Prime?
Well, I chose Strahd not based off of the battle, but based off of character background. I feel like I didn't know a whole lot about either character until Tracy just recently went through a basic description of background.
Like 20 minutes ago.
Just recently. I said 20 minutes ago. It's recent, right?
Yes.
Extremely.
And I just feel like that... I feel like his background and his storyline makes more logical sense to me than Soth's does. It just does to me. Like, that's really what it boils down to, you know?
Tony.
I have no background with Soth, other than Tracy's description earlier. My experience with Ravenloft has always been on the Strahd side, and everything we did with our gaming group while I was a part of it was always on the Strahd side. So my style and mentality, I associate in some of the way he thinks, of his more tactical style of warfare, and that's just I just from the description before, that's why I chose Strahd.
Debbie?
So I actually think it's somewhere between lances and primes, which is a very odd thing, and my head's hurting right now. Yes.
Right? Do you have a temperature? Do you need to take you to the doctor?
I need some Tylenol.
Doctor?
Yes, I do.
You want me to get you some water?
Maybe. For more of a lances style, I've adored the story of the vampire for so long. I loved reading the classic, Bram Stoker's Dracula. I loved the dark... It's so funny. I love the dark despair that comes with the vampire's character. And sparkly aside, I really love it.
Vampires.
Thank you. Yeah, there's a dark romance in the overall theme of vampires if you just look at that, and then what Strahd brings to it, and the loss of his love, and that I'm drawn to that. And then from drifting over more prime, as a thinker, I like things to make sense rationally. I like to the story makes sense, because if the story doesn't make sense, as you all know at this table, I will go on about it for the rest of the night.
It's true.
Yep.
And I won't stop. So
I don't, but I believe you.
You should. No.
You don't have 8 hours.
That's true. So his story makes also a little bit more logical sense to me, following the progression of his emotion and his fall, maybe his progression through his story makes more logical sense to me than does Soth. It's not that his story is less, I don't know. My thought process, I see it better. So, somewhere between Lance and Prime, and yes, the microphone just cracked when I said that. So.
What'd you do, zap lightning to it? Like,
Sure there was a microphone and not my knuckles?
It's because we're teased, Deb.
We think it through, that's right.
Avital?
The Myers-Briggs coming soon to the Established Facts podcast.
I chose because you made me, Drill Sergeant.
Well, as I said earlier, I knew nothing about these two characters at all, or Ravenloft at all.
You're the most objective of any of us, because you had no background.
So I had to pick some really random kind of reason in my head to pick one of them.
And that reason was?
Well, I'm a very romantic kind of person at heart, and literally the reason why I picked Strahd was because he didn't cheat on his wife.
Oh, there you go. Loyalty.
I like that one.
That's nuts. All right.
I'm just going to say, he cheated on his wife for love, though.
So?
It was an arranged marriage.
So? If he's a bad guy, anyways, right? I don't know, knock her off or something.
What are you trying to do?
Wow, this really went.
We were going down a road, and then all of a sudden it was like
Left turn.
skewed to the left a
Here's
little
what I
bit.
love is Avital's the one that took it on that.
I know, right?
She grabbed the wheel and just...
She drew a line and then sent us a postcard from the other side of it.
Well, while you're over there, let me go ahead and jump over that line too.
Oh, Lord. Don's going to join you.
So, I am going to pull a Hickman.
Oh, Lord.
And I'm going to change my vote.
Let's die.
Is that what that is?
It is now.
It's not going to bode well.
No. I'm using... In this episode...
election, it's gone now, man.
That's right.
Yeah,
So-
the whole election just for
Yeah, all of our listeners are going to...
Right.
So I
sway by 4 points.
I identify a lot more with the emotional side of the characters more than the supernatural side of the characters. So where Takesis and the Dark Powers are a huge factor for these two guys, what I identify more, and the reason why I think that they both lose, is because one of them is after a pursuit of love that he can never have and will never give up. And the other one is after a pursuit of power that he can never have and yet never give up. And it's that what makes that mashup interesting to me is that they are, every other passion in their life has been taken away from them. So the only thing they can pursue is the last passion that they had. Before, they really sold themselves for whatever promise that dark side gave them. Knowing, very similar to like when if you ever have seen the Wishmaster movies, when you take a wish from a Djinn, it always gets twisted. You may get what you wanted, but it's not really how you wanted it.
You get what you asked for, but not what you want.
Right, you get what you asked for, but not what you wanted. So to me, I think that the most tragic part about their stories is really that they are just constantly going to pursue something that they will never be able to have, and that's the biggest heartbreak of those characters, is because and what I love about a good bad guy, it reminds me a lot of, like, for example, Magneto's story from the X-Men. He wants to be accepted, but because he's not accepted, he's willing to take acceptance at all costs, even becoming kind of the controller of all things, but never even really reaching that point.
If you want to accept me as your equal, you will accept me as your leader.
Exactly. And it's that kind of thing. Like, I can't have the love that I want, so I'm going to take the love from everyone else. I can't have all the power that I want, so I'm going to take power from everyone else, and I'm going to slaughter them however I need to. Whatever it takes for them to understand what my pain is what I'm going to inflict on them. So, Josh.
This is totally a joke, but as you're going through that last explanation, I don't know how many of you have seen the most recent Comic-Con trailer for the new Batman Superman Dawn of Justice, but I'm totally imagining Superman as Soth and Strahd as Batman. Totally. They don't change any of the dialogue, but just those images.
You lead.
Just add kind of a Wallachian accent to Affleck.
Right. And I mean, it comes back to that proverb of power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And if you can't have what you want, you're going to take what you can't have.
Somebody's going to have a problem with
Yeah,
it.
right. So, Lance.
Continue along with the emotional spectrum of it. Tracy, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Now, I have to admit that I don't know the ultimate ending to the Lord Soth story.
As far as I know, there isn't one.
But I know that there is a redemption story for Count Strahd. Can you go into that a little bit?
A redemption story for Strahd? I know there's a redemption story for Barovia. I don't know if there's a redemption story for Strahd. Actually, what I'd like to talk about for a minute, if I may, is vampires.
Okay.
If you must.
If I may. Oh no, I think you will find this... I don't know if you'll find it an interesting discussion. I think I'll be fascinating.
That's okay. That's ultimately the goal here anyways. They only care about you.
The modern vampire story, I'm not talking about, of course, old mythology, but the modern vampire story didn't actually start with Bram Stoker. The modern vampire story actually originated from John Polidori. And John Polidori was Lord Byron's personal physician.
Okay.
It was on that same weekend, actually, where Mary Wollstonecraft came up with the Frankenstein story. Everyone was asked to write a story. Mary Wollstonecraft wrote the story that would become Frankenstein. John Polidori wrote a story called The Vampire. What is interesting in that is that there are many people who believe that whom John Polidori was actually writing about was Lord Byron. That Byron himself was the model for the vampire. And in that, he was the model of a user.
Oh, wow.
An abuser of women, one who was charming, but charming and seductive, but nevertheless felt no real compassion, which in many ways I think can describe Byron. He was mad, bad to know. It was actually the vampire that he wrote, that Polidori wrote, that later became kind of the genus for Bram Stoker's Dracula. Bram Stoker's Dracula is a fascinating read in terms of morality in its time.
Yes.
A juxtaposition between physical passion and morals of its time. But in fact, those stories themselves reach back into female folklore and feminine archetypes, as Rose Pincola Estes talked about in Women Who Run with the Wolves. Most particular, it relates to the legends of the Bluebeard. The Bluebeard being a feminine archetype of the too good-looking man, who's the too good-looking catch, the too good catch, and who leaves, who marries this young, beautiful woman, sets her up in his wonderful palace, and tells her she can go anywhere she wants, but to stay out of the cellar. And of course, he goes away on business. Where does she go? She goes to the cellar, finds the key, and opens the forbidden room. And as she does so, she finds all of the previous wives. Their desiccated bodies, they're rotting in the cellar, and knows that is her fate too. She takes the key out of the lock, tries to hide the knowledge that she has of her husband, but the key itself bleeds. It's the bleeding key. And he can see the blood on her hands from the bleeding key, and knows that she knows who he really is. And so he must kill her. In the legend, how she escapes is she tells him that first she must say her prayers. She goes away, locks herself in her room, and is saying her prayers, and does so long enough for her brothers to arrive to rescue her. Now, the reason that this is important is because this means that the genus root of the vampire story is the Bluebeard story, and the genus root is the story of the abuser, of feminine abuse, and so the vampire story itself has a great deal to relate itself in our modern times in terms of abused women. What at the risk of opening this can of worms up, the reason that I am so violently opposed to the glittering vampire is it is a justification, a story justification of women's abuse. That he's just, that I can reform him. That I can fix the monster.
Fix him.
Yeah.
I've heard that story a couple of times.
Or become it herself.
Which she does.
Which she does. And what kind of a what kind of a mythology are we teaching in that? What kind of a relationship are we saying is it's okay
appropriate
to date the monster? It's okay to marry the monster and become the monster.
Right.
And it's one of the reasons why it's one of the reasons why Strahd is who he is. We need to identify. Strahd is absolutely a tragic character, but in his tragedy, he has become the monster. Mm-hmm. And having become the monster, we need to recognize him as the monster. Tragic though he is nevertheless the monster, and cannot in that sense be reformed.
There's no redemption for Strahd.
Yeah.
Well, and Adam,
that is the essence of his tragedy.
Yeah, that's to me that's the tragedy is that there is no redemption.
And it is also at the same time though our hope.
Yeah.
Because we are not the monster.
Right.
And we're all grateful for that.
And we're all grateful for that, knowing that there is hope in our redemption.
Yes, the possibility for our redemption, though. Yeah.
Wow, when we do this on the third day of the convention, it's deep.
Yeah, man.
Maudlin, man.
I feel like we all need like a philosophy class to really.
Adam, you had something that you...
I did. Well, we were getting into... Tracy and I attacked the question from a more world-based standpoint.
Yeah.
I felt like everybody else kind of... And nothing wrong with it, but I felt like everybody else kind of went with who I identified most. Mm-hmm. I do want to throw out that I identify with Soth more than I do Strahd.
Yeah.
And the biggest reason for that is when you boil down Soth's story, he had a choice at one point in his origin myth, so to speak, where he had to choose between love and duty. And he chose love. And that led him to his fall. And that is a choice that I myself have had to make. I chose the same way. And not to the same extreme.
Thank goodness.
We're all feeling good about it.
You're not justifying anything that you've heard.
Right? I am here legally.
On this podcast.
But not to the same extreme, but it also led me to my fall.
Okay.
And so, to that degree, now I didn't make a dark pact with an evil goddess. I didn't sell my soul to anybody that I'm aware of.
We're all feeling good about that, too.
Not that we didn't try.
It is day 3 of Gen
Take it, I don't need it.
Right? Okay.
Nothing quite so tragic, and I'm not trying to make myself up as the tragic character, and I'm not brooding and wearing dark makeup today. But
Today.
It's tomorrow.
But
We'll see what happens after this episode's over.
When I show up tomorrow, if I have dark bags under my eyes, it has nothing to do with makeup. But I do identify with that kind of, being faced with that choice, making the decision, even though on some level you know that it's the wrong one.
Well, and I think, at least from my experience with playing in the setting of Ravenloft, that's kind of the story of Ravenloft. Like, it's a lost land that has people that are broken because of whether it be a Duchy Lord or a Death Knight or something like that.
Duchy Lord?
Sure, whatever. I don't know.
It was pronounced to us Duchy. We didn't know it otherwise.
Okay, it's Duchy.
That's great.
Sure. That's how we pronounce it in Indiana. Shut up.
Exactly.
If it makes you feel any better, we were specifically asking somebody like Bob Salvatore. It's Drow, right? It's
yes.
Not Drow.
It's Drow.
It's Drow.
Okay. Yes, we figured this out.
By Salvatore.
I'm going with Drow.
Okay. I feel so.
It was confirmed for me by Ed Greenwood. I figured he might know something about it.
But I think what's really cool about the characters and the setting and things like that is it really kind of leads into just a question really about the human condition and what we have to face. I mean, Lance used a very good example of his own life and why he identified with these characters, and I think that something that we've actually talked to Bob Salvatore a little bit about, and I would like to ask Tracy to kind of expound upon a little bit is, Bob had described when he wrote the Demon Wars that some of the characters straight fed off of his emotional state because of a loss of a very close family member of his, and just kind of his question of why, and dealing with those real life issues. So I kind of wanted to ask a little bit about the insight of those characters and kind of where, not obviously not location wise, obviously we kind of talked about where they came from in their storyline, but where they came from out of you. In
the nicest way. What were you thinking?
Yeah, really. No, really. Like because, you had made the comment earlier that you identified most with Strahd, and that's very interesting that you say that, because I want to know why. Like, what is it about those characters that...
What makes you tick?
...reflect you a little bit in them? Maybe not necessarily in their most, in their furthest iteration.
Yeah, seriously.
We'll see, I guess.
Well, I would like to be able to say that it all sprang from some dark, childhood, but I didn't have one.
A childhood or a dark childhood?
I'm still having the childhood.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
No, I didn't actually experience any true tragedy in my life until 2007.
Okay.
We all think life is tragic from time to time, but I'd never experienced any real loss in my life until 2007. And oddly enough, the impetus for Strahd came because of a dungeon that I'd been playing in. And it was I was still really young in terms of gaming. We were playing in this dungeon, and we fight some kobolds, and then there were some orcs, and then we went around a corner, and there was a vampire. And I thought, what are you doing here? Seriously, dude, you're a vampire. Did you get lost and wander into the wrong dungeon here? And
your backstory is not in this dungeon.
You so got lost in the stories.
And so I actually talked to my wife about this afterwards, and after the game, and and you have to understand, my wife and I are an amazing thing. We met in junior high school, dated a little bit off and on in high school. I came home from being a missionary in Java after 2 years, and she was still available, and we just had this great connection. After we'd gotten married, I can remember we'd just been married a couple of weeks. It was 1977, and I looked in the newspaper, and this new movie had just come out called Star Wars, and it looked just really...
Shut up, Lance.
What? I agree with the man.
I was seriously watching
back to a further conversation we had about 4 hours ago.
It's not episode 4.
Doesn't matter. Continue.
And I saw this ad for this science fiction film, and I thought, I really would like to go and see this, but I do not want to tell my new bride that I want to go see this science fiction movie. Meantime, unbeknownst to me, my wife had seen the paper and saw this new Star Wars movie had come out, and she really wanted to see it. But she didn't want to tell her husband that she wanted to go see this science fiction movie. Yeah, and so it was one of the funniest conversations we ever had. What would you like to see tonight, honey? Oh, I don't know. What would you like to see tonight, sweetheart?
Both kind of dancing around
this one. And, well, this is over here, and about maybe this one. I don't know if you'd like to see that or not. Oh, I'd kind of like to see that. Would you really kind of like to see that? All of which resulted in our finally going to the mall theater seeing Star Wars, and both of us driving home in our little Volkswagen Rabbit that night that had magically been transformed into a TIE fighter.
Your mind blown.
Yeah, both of us were just okay. But that's how we've been. So we were talking about this adventure that I've been in with this vampire that like appeared out of nowhere. And I said, that just doesn't seem right to me. A vampire needs story, it needs romance, it needs depth. And that was the impetus for writing Ravenloft. We decided that we were going to write a vampire story. We did a lot of research into Bram Stoker, and I can remember reading the annotated Dracula. And my favorite annotation, there were two favorite annotations I still remember from the annotated Dracula. One was, at one point they asked Van Helsing what they should, how are they ever going to get to Transylvania in time, and they said, well, and Van Helsing starts rattling off every train connection between London and Transylvania, and the little notation on the side is, it's amazing these people carry the train schedule for all of Europe in their head. But my very favorite was Lucy when she'd been bitten by the vampire 3 times, and she was on her, and they are trying desperately to save her, and so they do these repeated transfusions from these guys who are in the room.
Yes.
And the annotation on the side says, at no point in this story does anybody ever try to match blood types.
I had that thought when I read it. I'm so glad I'm not I thought I was being a doctor.
Said if the vampire doesn't kill her, these transfusions won't certainly do it.
Oh, thank you. God bless you. Yes, that's right.
So we did a lot of research into Dracula and into vampires, so that everything would work, and it does
show. It really does show that you like.
So it's really just a connection of the character and the development of that character, and just
coming
kind of
to a deep understanding not only of the character but of its cultural roots.
Okay.
Yes.
And the mythology behind it.
So not necessarily a self-definition, but more of a counterpart.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Well, we've been talking a lot about things that have come to pass, but what we would like to kind of shift into a little bit before we kind of close things up is, always what our question is what's coming next? I know that...
For Tracy or for Ravenloft?
For Tracy,
okay.
For Tracy, I don't want to open a can of worms with all of that, but...
Well, before we do the what's coming next...
Sure, what? No. I got nothing.
So one of our first hosts, Mike Bassey, has a story that he was going to share this evening about the Ravenloft, and we've mentioned quite a few times just kind of we have many different adjectives that go to explain what the Ravenloft is to us, and we're hoping to.
Is this like the Facebook? I mean,
yes,
it is.
Okay.
Because what happened to us almost every time with Ravenloft, because it was explained to us that it was this, whether it be true or not, this is what our experiences come from, that it was this demi-plane that was out of time and space that basically was a tool for the game master to go, I have no story continuing further. I'm going to send you to the Ravenloft.
Yay!
So then
thus
she'd
the
send
word
us
became
there.
bad word.
Right.
Yes.
So she'd send us there for, 5-10 sessions, and we'd have to deal with what's going on in there, and then she'd have another idea in her world and send us back. That's kind of what would go on.
Strahd, we're here for an intervention.
Assuming we try and summon Shadow and then we all die.
Right.
No, not all. Just you.
Somebody in Shadow in Strahd's area.
By Strahd's castle.
So second, maybe third time this happening to the same party for this game lasted 7 years. that was made up of about 2 years of only 2 people playing, 3 years made up of a group of people who would play easily 50 hours. We were playing more D&D than we were working.
Yep,
that's the truth.
Because we could do that. We all lived together.
It was 3 years worth, and then 2 years worth of 20 characters coming in and out once a week, depending on what was going on in their lives.
I was positive he was insane, and
probably,
I dated him.
This is totally unrelated there, though. So probably.
I think it is related somewhere.
So
but keep going.
Third or fourth time, we're sitting around. We're in Dragon's Rest or whatever it is, and the mist comes in, and that mist, all of us were like, "Oh crap!"
Rage quit.
Pretty much, we're like,
rage quit.
Okay.
We looked at her.
It's ironic. It's ironic you say that because the rest of us are. No, it wasn't rage quit. This was the ball. Yes, it's the ball story where he looked at the crystal ball. I remember this now.
Oh yeah,
his wife at the time, which it was another Kilara. Yeah.
Who was a vampire?
Who was also a vampire.
Another vampire.
That was actually a pretty.
Had apparently been taken to Ravenloft, and Vorn, Mike's character, because of their link, she was his sire. All this because he's a vampire. Also, he couldn't contact his sire. So he had this ball of find anyone.
He's flipping
for epic level characters, whatever, blah blah blah. So he looks into the ball and sees his wife. He immediately opens up a gate and walks through to where his wife is because teleport didn't work. He didn't do any knowledges or anything on why in the world teleporting didn't work, but Gate did.
No.
So he walks in, finds
teleport
his wife.
doesn't work. You might want to start asking more questions. Just some advice.
Walks in, finds his wife who's been captured, and then realizes where he is. The rest of us walk through the gate because he's left the gate open. He turns around, and at this point the gate shuts because the Lord shut the gate.
Because the GM said, this is too good.
At this point, Mike, as Vorn, for the next 4 sessions,
catatonic.
He sits down and goes catatonic in character for 4 sessions. He showed up to the game and said nothing.
Yeah.
For 4 hours.
Literally each session.
That's good roleplay.
Yes. Each session, because he didn't need to breathe air, he was in my bag of holding.
I'm in the bag of holding.
He was like, no.
Yeah.
Opened my bag of holding, stepped into it, closed it, and I went, wow, temper tantrum much.
Once he finally decided to act, took us a couple more sessions and we left. But the Ravenloft setting,
pseudo dragon.
yes, because he thought he was not only dead for being a vampire, thought he was legitimately dead. So as a sorcerer, his familiar was freaking out and like crying in his ear, and it finally caused him to snap out of it, and he dealt with the situation.
All things were good, and then
so it was
slapped Strahd in the face,
Ravenloft
jumped through the gate as fast as we could.
over the course of this multi-year campaign, Ravenloft had caused such a impact on us. Just
trauma,
trauma,
PTSD.
That's exactly what happened.
Seriously,
Anytime it's foggy outside, I freak out.
So, be glad to know. We would love to see. I can tell you that there's like this third party group out there. I don't remember specifically what it's called, but a lot of us are Pathfinder players. Some are D&D, 5th edition players, whatever. But from a Pathfinder's perspective, there's a group out there. I think it's called Mist Haven or Raven's Mist or something like that, where they've taken the campaign setting and converted to the Pathfinder rules. And we wanted to look into it and everything just because we want to try it again because we've been out of it for a few years. So though we know whatever opinions and arguments may come with Wizards, know that the Ravenloft still lives. Even when we're scared of it.
Masochists. Every last word.
So in our hearts, we still want to go and play in the Ravenloft.
For some reason.
For some crazy reason.
It's even better when you put the... I'm just...
No,
yes, it is.
Not.
Yes,
It is a castle. Not Castle the Ravenloft.
I'm learning more what that... Ravenloft is the castle. I'm learning that more. And then the Dread. I understand that. I'm telling you based off what we were shown,
our experience
when we played. The realm was considered Ravenloft.
Of
Barovia was within the Ravenloft. Yeah,
and the gypsies.
Yeah.
The gypsies were always the gypsies. So, to kind of wrap up the Ravenloft story, Tracy,
Yes.
what is your favorite Ravenloft memory? From writing or having run or having played in it?
My favorite Ravenloft memory. And we played it every Halloween, actually, for 5 years.
We actually played it every Halloween for 3.
Yeah.
Via candlelight.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
But
But my favorite Ravenloft memory, actually, is running a game for some friends, one of whom was Terry Phillips. And he really got into the lore of the game. So much so that he began to see the tragedy of the character, the tragedy of Soth. And so that by the time they found him in the crypt, he was, they found Soth, when they found Soth, they found him lying across the grave of the tomb of Irina Kolyana, weeping. Terry they had found the Sun Sword. They were all ready to strike. They had surprise, and he couldn't do it. He just couldn't do it. The rest of the party did not have this compunction, however. Out of his freaking mind, took the Sun Sword from him and fell on Strahd. Terry, after the game was over that night, he said he was very reflective, and came up to me and he said he didn't deserve to be destroyed that way. It was like a pack of dogs falling on him.
Right.
And I looked at him and I said, but that's exactly how he died. That there was no valor in his death. That it was an ignominious sort of a death. But at least he's free. And so that's my favorite Ravenloft memory is that I had a player in the game who understood the tragedy of the character so much so that he refused to strike.
Wow. That's really awesome.
Yes, it is.
That's really awesome.
It's beautiful.
So, Tracy?
Oh, yes. Okay.
The music in the background is actually kind of cool.
Right? Yeah, like, good timing. Good timing.
Orchestral strings and just...
You know,
The Oscars.
we were kind of talking before we
Time to get off
started...
stage, then.
Right? We were kind of talking a little bit before we started recording about some of the stuff that you've gotten a chance to participate with, and so give us a little insight on what's going on in the Hickman house.
Well, there's a wedding going on there.
Everything.
Congratulations to the bride and groom, by the way.
Yes.
We're sorry that you couldn't make it, but we
Understand.
Understand completely.
That's right.
So, which is, of course, why Laura's not here. But other than that, there are a lot of things that are going on. We're currently finishing the second book in the Nightbird series, which is called Unhonored. And that book is turning out to be really amazing.
The first one scared the crap out of me.
The first one was pretty scary. The second one just gets deeply weird.
Does it?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm excited now. I was excited before, but
the second book takes place in Echo House, which is think of Merrick being in charge of Winchester House.
oh, that's fun.
Oh yeah. The first book was very much about the present. This
Right.
book is about the past as she comes to start remembering.
I'm excited.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun trip. I'll be doing the next book with Richard Garriott in the Shroud of the Avatar series. I'm very excited to get working on that. Working on another computer game project as well. I have a number of book projects that are due. I'm helping to start a company currently. It's actually a company to help authors and artists to connect with their audience.
That's awesome.
Very excited about that. I get to help my son every now and then with his project, which I find enormously fun. Everybody needs to visit thevoid.com and see the video there. And I can tell you from my experience that the actual experience is better than the video portrays. I may very well be in Con Man, Alan Tudyk's project.
So, Con Man, just making sure I understand what they took it to Indiegogo, right, to raise money to
They
do
took
this.
it to Indiegogo. They wanted to raise, I think, $460,000, somewhere around that range, in order to do 3 episodes.
So, web series, right?
Yeah, well, it started out that way.
Okay.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a web series, and they were going to do 3 episodes and see if it could fly. However, since it's really Alan Tudyk and Nathan Fillion who are like doing it, every brown coat in the world thought this sounded like
man.
Yes.
All the money.
I agree.
Yes, I wrote the article I wrote about it as soon as I found out was called "Con Man, Please Take My Money."
Yes.
But thanks to knowing Felicia Day, I was able to get in touch with the producers of the series, and they said, "Well, you should be in it. Why don't you come down and be in it? If you're in Southern California about the time when we're shooting, you should be in it." And so I said, "So when is that?" And yes, I am going to be in Southern California.
Miraculously,
just on those days. So Laura and I drove down, and Laura and I drove down. We thought we were just going to be, like those people who are slightly out of focus in the back, background extras. But we arrived without any big expectations. 7:30 for the 7:30 call, and the assistant director was at the door and said, "Are you Tracy Hickman?" I said, "Well, yes, I am." And just after she said that, the producer, PJ Harsma, came through the door. And he said, "Tracy, it's so great to meet you." And I said, "It's great to meet you, too." He says, "I got you a line. I need to get you into rehearsal right now." Okay. Whatever you say. Thanks, CB, or in this case, PJ. And so he took me in. Here's the script sheets for today, and okay, here's your line, okay, and immediately, of course, I start totally obsessing over this single line of dialogue. How will I say this line? How will I say this line? Will I say this line?
Right out of the Seinfeld episode.
Oh my gosh.
And Alan Tudyk's directing it as well as doing the writing and
cool. Being in
it. And so Alan comes on stage. It's a convention setting, right? They've got banners on the side for this fake convention that these and
okay.
Yeah.
I get it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The particular convention that I think was BayCon.
Okay.
BEIGH.
Oh my gosh.
Con. So fine, and so I sit in my seat.
Oh
and
gosh.
Alan's on stage, and he says his. I stand up, I deliver my line, I sit down. Okay, rehearsal's over. You've got to be over, and we got to take you into wardrobe and then makeup.
I was just coming for a donut and an all-focus shot. Makeup?
Okay, so in I go in the wardrobe. They fit me into something. Okay, and here we go into makeup. I'm sitting in the makeup chair. I'm feeling like, I'm George Clooney.
Right?
So, and PJ and Alan come into the room. And PJ says, yeah, he's going to be doing this line for us. And Alan says, no, I have somebody else in mind for that. He's going to be our MC. Well, I've read the script. There actually is no lines for the MC, and so I said, all right. I said, there's no dialogue for the MC. What would you like me to say? And he said, well, we'll work that out. Meaning, make something up.
You make something up, yeah.
Make something up.
So now all of a sudden I'm writing my own dialogue. And so here I am. Okay, fine. So it turns out actually that what I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to be. They have a typical stage convention appearance set up, and they have the whole thing set up with chairs for the audience, and they've got all of these professional extras that are sitting in the cattle pen in the background green room, and I'm in the principal cast green room, so I'm feeling pretty good. And met some of the most wonderful actors there, both of whom were handicapped, and wonderful, charming people. I just really enjoyed talking to them. They were incredible. In fact, I still do. I'm in touch with them still. So anyway, my job is I'm supposed to be the MC now, and so there's an actor on stage, and he's getting increasingly obnoxious. Actually, he was like a cross between Sir Laurence Olivier and William Shatner, I think.
Wow.
Oh,
my. Whoa.
The greatest overactor in the world.
Man, absolutely.
That's
And he's a motion capture actor, which means he's in the suit with the little balls on it, right? And he's like, I'm an actor with this thing, and it's hilarious. So he says something that's completely over the top, okay? The kind of thing that you would dread being on Facebook or YouTube especially. Anyway, and my job is to rush in and say thank you, hustle him off stage, and then I'm supposed to introduce Alan's character. I'm supposed to say, and now, the moment you've been waiting for, Spectrum's own Ray Nearling. So I do actually have some lines at this point. This is good. And then Alan comes on stage. I'm supposed to leave stage and then have the microphone around. So, okay. This is actually working out pretty good so far. And I've got these 2 HD cameras in the back and lights, and they're shooting the stage, and I'm up here doing this, and my wife's down in the audience, being the extra slightly out of focus, and the extra's sitting next to her and says, he's pretty good. What have I seen him in before? And I'm, and my wife's thinking, any of these background extras would kill to have a line. Let's just go with that, okay? He's doing some stuff. And so we shoot the scene from the back from the back of the morning, and then further close-ups. We're doing the close-ups after that. We break for lunch. We've shot all morning this, and I keep delivering my lines. We have lunch, and during lunch they move the cameras onto the stage to shoot the reverse angles, right? So it's time to shoot the reverse angles. I go back there, and the stairs are blocked now with lights, cameras, dolly trucks, tracks. I mean,
right.
There's no place to get on the stage anymore. Well, being the trooper, I climb up on the stage, right? Go in, make my entrance, deliver my line, exit. I know I got to get off the stage quietly, and it's that high, and then I have to go on and pass that floor. Okay. So, at this moment, I'm going to digress into some film history. In It's a Wonderful Life, there's a scene right after Jimmy Stewart's brother comes home, and he's out in front of the house feeling a little dejected because his brother's going to saddle him with the savings and loan again. And Uncle Billy, played by Tom Wilkinson, comes out, and he's drunk, and he's going home. You remember this scene?
Yep.
Okay. he walks out of frame, and then there's this horrible crash, right? And he says, "I'm all right. I'm all right." And Jimmy Stewart kind of smiles, and it sounds like he ran into garbage cans, right? It was an accident on set. He actually had walked into a stack of cans, film cans, knocked them over, made this horrible sound, fell on the floor, and said, "I'm all right, I'm all right." But it worked so well, they left it in the movie.
Nice.
That's great.
I tell you this.
I can kind of see where the story is going.
If you were at Killer Breakfast this morning, you heard this story.
Well, you were at Killer Breakfast after Killer Breakfast.
So yes, I got up on the stage, went over, delivered my line. Alan was coming up onto the stage. I turned and vanished from sight. With the horrible crash.
Did you yell, "I'm all right"?
The audience gasped. I mean, the extras all gasped. They knew that I had just... PA's grips. Everybody descends on me like locusts. And I've fallen into a stack of light cases. Okay.
Ouch.
And it was not pretty. Everything hurt. Everything was banged up. I was bleeding from my knee actually at the time. And I'm lying there because I felt my ankle roll under me, and that I felt like that's usually what happens when I sprain it. So I just lay there still for minutes. Please don't be sprained. So they picked me up, and the producer PJ is right there, and he says, "Are you all right?" And I said, "I'm all right. I'm all right." He said, looked at me, and he said, "We've got people to take care of this, and the hospital's only three blocks away. St. Mary's is ready. It's on the call sheet for any problems." And I knew that if I did that, they would have lost a day, because everything they shot in the morning would be called into question. Everything that they couldn't pick up again from where they were. And that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I said, "I'm fine." He said, "Stand on one foot." So I stood on my right foot. "Stand on the other foot." I said, "No." He said, "Are you lying to me?" And I lied and said, "No, I'm fine. Let's just go on." So I am the guy who fell off the stage in Con Man, and ultimately, after all was said and done, and Alan was very, very, very sweet to me. He's a great guy anyway, and a really good director, I think. He reached down and pulled me back up on stage to the thunderous applaud of the extras who were being paid for that sort of thing. They were very gracious, and Alan actually signed a paper for me on the back that said, "Sorry, we moved the stairs." But it was an awesome experience. Met some really nice people. It was great to be on set and see how it was done. It's going to be a really fun ride. And the cap to all of this is that even though, on reflection, I'm pretty sure that of everything shot that day, I am easily the first thing to hit the cutting room floor. I may even make the deleted scenes.
Which would be in the blooper reel.
Yeah, you might be in the outtakes blooper reel.
Yeah. Especially if there's somebody with like an iPhone, like, "Oh my God, he just went down."
Oh gosh.
But because I actually spoke lines, and because it's a union set, I got my application for the Screen Actors Guild. That would be really fun. Also, come to discover that their insurance is so vastly superior to what I've got. I probably should join.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my content experience. It's going to be a lot of fun, and
Can't wait.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And when, do we have any idea on when that'll be out?
September 30th. I think is what it said. I just rent. You can rent the season from Vimeo, Vimeo on demand. It's kind of a strange thing. I've never seen that. It's $14.99, and when the season comes out, you'll be able to watch it. Once you start watching it, you can watch it for like 24 to 48 hours or something like that.
So it's like getting the pay-per-view.
That type of thing. But from what I
Movie or something
understand,
like
the
that.
Indiegogo raised enough money that it will eventually release on disc.
Oh, cool.
But the backers will get discs first, and
yeah.
then
That makes
go
sense.
from there. But
That's very cool.
Because you take care of your backers.
Well, yeah, always.
Yeah, got to take care of the backers. Yeah.
That's great.
So it's going to be a lot of fun.
That's very cool.
gonna be a
That's
lot.
very cool. So, lots of fun stuff going on.
Yeah, a lot of fun stuff.
any new stuff for Sojourner Tales?
Yeah, working on a new Sojourner Tale. For that, we just had a release of Kevin Anderson's Sojourner Tale, which I was very happy to see that go up.
Very cool.
And we should get Larry Correa's taken care of here pretty soon as well.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I'm very excited about that. To get those done too. I wish I had more time for everything. There's so much going on right now. It's hard to keep up.
Write books to make money. I
Write
know.
books to make money. Everything else is out there too.
You were doing something with conventions and queue systems too? Is that still
Yeah, that's still going on. Actually, that's part of the company that we're building. We do. In fact, I was just talking to somebody over at Fantasy Flight today. They had a problem because their line was shut down by the fire marshal.
Wow.
Oh, because it wrapped around too far
Yeah.
and stuff like that, yeah.
And I told the guy, I said, look, we have a solution for that we could do. Wouldn't it be great? I mean, you've all seen the lines at Fantasy Flight. It's like it takes forever to get in.
Well, they go out the main door and wrap around the exhibit hall.
Yeah.
And we can solve that. We can simply put up a sign at the entrance to Fantasy Flight that says, text this to this number and get in line. And we will tell you when it is, and we can tell you when it will be your turn. And
So it's like taking a number or something like that, and then you
Right.
just get the call on your phone.
It varies a little bit. If people are moving quicker into Fantasy Flight, then we let you know that you'll be coming in a little bit earlier. If they're taking longer, then we can also let you know it's going to take longer. And it means that you can have your life back rather than stand all day in Fantasy Flight's line.
Even just having like your estimated time of wait, hey, 15 minutes or hey,
Reminds me of
3
the Disney
hours.
Fast Pass.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's what we do. We essentially emulate a Disney Fast Pass, although there are other things that we can do. One of the things that we want to talk to them about is what we call an airbuy system, which would be, okay, you want to go shop Fantasy Flight, so you get in line using you text in to get in line, and then we send you back a link to the airbuy system that allows you to purchase everything in the store on your phone.
Okay.
So that you don't have to go through the transaction process when you get there. All you have to do is have them scan the QR code on the phone and hand you your product.
That's cool.
Yeah, it saves everybody.
That's cool.
Well, it'd be really neat too. I know one thing that you kind of touched on last year when we talked about that was like artwork and doing autographs and stuff like that. And I think it'd be really neat for here at Gen Con this year they had Summer Glau.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to get an autograph from her, but I'm also helping out some people that needed some last minute volunteers at the convention and stuff. So that's got me booked up for the weekend, which I'm having a great time with. But there's a lot of things that you miss out on when you're helping out somebody in that situation. But if you had a system where you could get online and say, I want the con exclusives from Stoneblade for the new Ascension set, or I want an autographed headshot from Summer Glau, and just put all that in your basket and pay for it. And then if you have a booth to be able to just go and pick it all up, and have runners and stuff. I mean, that's a whole nother market.
And then you don't have to haul everything around all day with you.
Yeah.
You just go get it at the end of the day, which is really ideal for everybody.
We just ran into that today, having to take a bunch of games. Going to get the car to come up so we didn't have to take the games to the car.
Right.
That's another good model that Disney has too. You buy it in the stores there, they ship it to the store nearest to your hotel.
Yeah.
Or in the case of the parks in Florida, of course, anything you buy anywhere in any of the parks, they'll send it to your room.
Yes.
Yeah,
property.
Correct.
Which would also be a nice service to be able to do.
Yeah.
I mean, with the hotel configuration here, for example, where you have so many hotels that are local,
Right.
you could very easily arrange to simply take it to the hotel and have it delivered to the room.
Yeah, absolutely.
There'd be charges involved, certainly, for that sort of thing. But seriously, how great would it be for you to not have to slog back to the hotel room and get back?
Carrying like 4 big bags and then all the stuff that you brought with you in the first place.
It works great for everybody. At Comic Con, Salt Lake Comic Con it was FanX actually. At Tom Felton, Draco Malfoy.
Yeah.
Right.
His line was 4.5 hours long.
Oh my gosh. And that's cool, but...
And if you think about it's cool, except that if you think about that means that there are people who are standing in a 4.5 hour line who cannot do anything else.
Yep.
Exactly.
Correct.
They've paid to come into the convention, which means they've paid for those 4.5 hours.
Right.
And they're not getting anything out of it.
They're not getting anything out of it.
Or a picture at the end of the line if they're...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so if you have... And it also means that these people in the 4.5 hour line are not in line for Felicia Day. They're not in line for Lou Ferrigno. They're not in line for anybody else.
Right.
And they're not shopping any of the booths.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
That's lost revenue right there.
Right, yeah, tons of lost revenue.
And it means that for Tom Felton, even the guy who has this magnificent line, it means for Tom Felton that 4.5 hours later, he's meeting people who've been in line for 4.5 hours.
Right.
Right. They're really not in the best mood.
And they've been standing in line with their kids who really want to see Draco Malfoy for 4.5 hours.
4.5 hours.
Right.
And with the system that we have, and it's fully functional now, with the system that we have, our system does a lot of cool things because I've been on that side of the table for so long. The system that we have now, you can stand in line for everybody at the same time.
Yeah.
You can see Summer Glau at 2 o'clock, and you can see Felicia Day at 1 o'clock, and you can see Tom Felton at 4 o'clock, and be in all of those lines at the same time.
Right.
Which means that everybody's revenue goes up. Everybody's satisfaction goes up because they get to see everybody they wanted to see.
And they're shopping probably all in that time.
Or shopping all in that
Or the other side of that, they get to find out that they're not going to be able to see said person if the line
Earlier
is full.
on. Oh, yeah.
Which a lot of people would rather know, you know what, I'm just not going to be able to see the guy.
This is an unusual aspect that we can actually provide, which is to say, let's say you get in line for Tom Felton on Thursday, and you're too far back
To get in on Thursday.
Right. So what happens is, if there's too many people see Tom Felton on Thursday, Tom Felton can decide, you know what, let's just add another signing here at 8 in the evening. If Tom Felton decides that, you can text all those people who are in line and say, we're going to be able to see to this point. You won't be able to see him today, but there's another signing here at 8 o'clock, and you will keep your place in line.
And basically
we just move
chunk
the
them
line.
over to the new line.
And we can do that over multiple days. So if you don't get to see Tom Felton on Thursday, you're going to still keep your place in line on Friday. Which is huge for people at a convention, because it means that even if the line stretches clear to Terre Haute, I'm still going to get...
Yeah.
I'm still going to have that perception of justice.
Yeah.
Right. My time has not been wasted.
My time's not been wasted.
My time
And you can even set like a unit maximum of per that. Like if you know that it takes on average 10 to 15 minutes to have an exchange or do a photo op, you can say, okay, well, and if I do 10 minutes in exchange, that means I can fit 6 people in an hour, and if I've only got 8 hours, then that means I get 48 people in a day.
For that.
Yeah.
The other thing that we do, there's 2 other things that we do that I think are really exciting. The flip side of that is, what if you're a new actor, comes to a convention because you've gotten a part in this, as a background actor in a Star Trek film or something,
Right.
and you're just starting out. What you don't want is to sit at a table
Oh yeah.
for 3 hours
Right.
And never talk to anybody.
Never talk to anybody. And 6 people show up. And
Right.
a couple here and a couple there. It's the dreaded idea that whenever that happens, that TMZ is going to come along with a camera and shoot you standing there looking like, we'll act for food.
Right.
So what we do is, if you get in that line, if you've got 10 people in that line, and you know that it's only going to be 10 people, right? You can text all of them and say, if it's John Smith is the new actor here, you can text everybody and say, John Smith wants to meet you personally in room 322.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
And then, instead of sitting there with looking bereft of fans and understanding, suddenly you're giving those 10 fans a cool experience,
A personal experience.
a personal experience, away from the cameras. Which means that these 10 people are going to go out and say, man, I had this... they had us come in, we sat down with him, we talked for half an hour, and it was awesome, and
we got
what a cool guy he is. We got our pictures taken with him.
Yeah.
Now, John Smith here only has to spend 30 minutes instead of 2 hours.
Yeah.
Right? And can go back to his room and can
enjoy the con for himself.
Wander around.
Right. And those 10 people become his marketing team.
Go out and see how awesome it was to see him, and they become his marketing team.
Right. Check out this movie.
It works for everybody.
Yeah.
The other great thing that I like from my side of the table is that when we push the text out, when you go in and you say, I'm in line, and the text comes back and says, well, okay, we expect you, your time will be this time, and so forth. We give them a link to a form, and they put their name in it. Okay, first name, last name, and they put in. First name, last name, and we also ask them, what would you like to tell the celebrity what would you like to talk to the celebrity about when you meet them? And what happens then is when they come up to the table, it displays for the celebrity on the iPad of the table how to spell their name, what their name is, right? And something that they want to talk about. And so the celebrity doesn't have to fish around for some conversation.
Right.
How are you?
They can say, Frank, it's great to see you. I didn't know that you and I had met before at ConX. I hear you're a big fan of this film I was in. I didn't know you saw me on stage. How cool is that? You can instantly get into the conversation, which means it actually shortens the encounter time and lets you talk to them.
Right. You don't have to worry about the small talk aspect of things because you've already got something to talk about.
It also makes it more personal.
And it makes it more personal.
How do I personalize this? To Joe with the 2 E's. No, now you already know that. Now you can move.
Right. You can move right past that. You can go right to the conversation that is more intimate, more meaningful, and takes less time.
You learn that the second E is silent.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think it's awesome.
It's a
Long overdue.
huge thing we're really excited about.
That's cool. Dig it.
I tell you, Indie PopCon ran into a lot of those same issues
I was
because
thinking that.
we, a lot of us are represented at Indie PopCon here. It's a pop culture convention that was kickstarted last year, and they ran the second one this year. I think they got somewhere between 19 and 20,000 people this year.
They did, yeah, they did awesome this year.
What happened was they invited, I think it was 4 YouTube personalities, including one, Markiplier, who has 32 million followers. Is that right?
He has 8 million.
8 million. Sorry, that's what it was.
They didn't actually invite.
They invited.
Oh, that's right. They invited to come.
They invited Markiplier, I thought.
I don't know.
And then he decided that he wanted to
this convention to come to as somewhere he could go in the Midwest to meet his fans.
Smaller con, but
because
something that
it's a YouTube thing. It's like a different thing than like an actor.
Yeah.
Okay, so Markiplier, YouTube artist. That's who he is. He's a YouTube web streamer, whatever.
Plays video games.
Him and 3 other guys have the largest line in the entire convention.
Oh, yeah, it was
While
crazy.
Edward James Olmos, Sam Jones, and John Delancey are sitting on autograph row.
Right across from us.
Like, I understand that the big stars are charged a certain amount or whatever, but this line's wrapped around. Like, they ran to similar
it was
problems.
hundreds of people.
And see,
So
this
there's 6
absolutely
hours.
cures that.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah. I was thinking
We
we
can
needed
maintain
that.
a minimum
Give him his phone number
number,
or
which
his
means that
phone.
you've always got somebody in
Yeah.
front
Try
of
to
you.
talk to him.
But yeah, to have everything in one place. It's embarrassing for the other stars.
Right.
Well, even one of the guys,
It's
I was
awkward
sitting in the
for the
booth,
star
and a gentleman came up, and he was talking to one of our local radio personalities that had a booth right next to us, and he said, he made the comment, he goes, what are all these people in line for?
Yeah.
And the guy was like, oh, some YouTube internet guy, And I kind of spoke up, and I was like, "Oh, he's in. They're all online to see Markiplier and some of his friends and stuff. They do game reviews and all kinds of really cool pop culture stuff on their YouTube." And the guy made the comment. He goes, "Edward James Olmos and John Delancey and Sam Jones, freaking Flash Gordon is sitting right across from us, and they have 1, 2, 3 people in line maybe, and there's hundreds of people lined up for these YouTubers." And I'm like, dude, these kids don't know who these actors are, and if they had a little bit more time to kind of get to know them, then maybe it would be a different story. But you have to think that you throughout the day of the con, you've got people that are kind of intermittently coming in, and maybe they want to get an autograph from John Delancey, but John Delancey's like, well, I've been sitting here for 3 hours and I've talked to 3 people and I'm hungry. Well, if you had an opportunity to say, hey, I'm going to be here, I want to schedule to be here at this time, okay, well, if you're scheduled to be, if you want to put in for your 4:30 slot, and my last person was in at 2, that I know ahead of time, I got 2.5 hours. I can go and do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Be back here at the booth to be able to meet this person,
Yeah.
and then there's no, you don't feel like you're wasting your time, and the whoever the star is or whatever industry person doesn't feel like they're wasting their time, and I think it's just a more positive spin on things in general.
Yeah, it helps everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Lance.
I don't want to rain on it, but I have found that when I stand in line, Carrie Fisher comes to mind when I stand in line for her.
Who?
I got to meet a lot of Star Wars fans, and we just got to talk Star Wars.
Yeah.
So would your system allow for maybe 5 or 6 people to be in line at the same time?
Oh, actually, what we want to do is we want to maintain about between 20 and 50 people in a line.
Okay.
You want that because you want you want a line so that there's a perception of popularity.
Right.
Right,
Yeah, you want to give
Right.
that promotional. Yeah.
Exactly. And so because you want the picture, right?
Right.
Oh yes, these people are all in line for
Yeah, but
what you. But at the same time, you want to know if you've only got 50 people in line. Then you put somebody and say, "Oh, the line's closed," and then you're done. Again, it means that you're done in an hour instead of 4.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
And which still looks better. But yes, you want the group experience as well, which is why we want to maintain a certain level of line. But if I'm in line with 50 people to go and see Mark Hamill, that's great. It's being in line with
500.
2,000 people.
And I'm the 500th
Well, and
person in line.
it's a psychological thing for the people that are waiting in line too. That you go walk in and you see 150 people in front of you, and you're like, I'm never going to get a chance to get an autograph.
Right.
But if you go in and you see 20 people, you're like, oh crud, I might be able to actually, And then if there's somebody at the line that says, hey, go to this link, put your name in the queue, that way, because there's more than just these people in line. But we didn't want to waste people's time all day. So put your name in this queue. It'll guarantee your spot in line, whether you're here today or tomorrow or the next. And you'll get everything that you want as a fan experience. I think what might also be kind of a cool thing to consider is, some people are only going to be at a con for one day. So maybe having like a priority list, not to say that the people who are going to be there for all 3 days shouldn't have some sort of priority, but also saying, hey, this guy's, he wants to pay for the autograph, he wants to meet this actor, he's only going to be here on Friday, and then kind of shifting
Hi,
shifting all
sweetheart.
of that. Hey!
I'm in the middle of a podcast.
Yes, we're keeping him up.
Hi,
late.
Laura.
Hello, Laura.
Everybody's sorry that you're not here.
It's true.
We did.
miss you.
Oh, please tell me you didn't hang up on her.
What's that? Hello.
Hi, Laura.
Hi, Laura.
That's great. Okay, well, I just called because I thought it was probably late there, and apparently it is, but it doesn't matter.
Not late enough. They will let me go to bed soon, sweetheart.
Yeah.
So
We're about
I'll call
done.
you back when we're finished.
Okay, babe. I love you.
Yes, I love you too.
We love you too.
Love you.
Okay,
Just so you know, that's not getting edited out. That's adorable.
She likes to make sure I'm coming home.
So, since we've kind of had a break in the
wife.
conversation, let's go ahead and wrap this bad boy
That
up.
sounds like a good idea. It's
Tracy,
two 2-hour episodes in a row from
Go to
us.
bed.
Well, you know, we love Tracy.
I know.
It's worth it.
Our people will
So,
actually
first
listen
of all,
to the end.
like we always do, we want to thank you for coming and hanging out with us for the last couple hours. And just so you know, this morning was my first Tracy Hickman Killer Breakfast.
Ooh.
And I had the most fun. It was so much fun. And
I knew you'd love it.
I'm still convinced that had it just been Josh and I on the stage, we would have been alive for at least, I don't know,
20
10
more
minutes.
seconds.
There's no account of other players.
That's true. But there were, it was just as much fun sitting in the audience and watching just the madness that was going on the entire time. It was so much fun. And the guys who did the Game of Henry's, the guys who did the kind of the skit throughout the whole thing, they were hysterical as well. So I definitely want to thank you for that experience. That was really cool.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it's the best reason to come to the convention.
I agree, dog on it. So,
Every convention should have one.
that's right.
PopCon. Oh, wait, no.
Oh, I'm sorry. Every convention that Tracy can make should have one.
Yes, that's accurate.
All right, so on episode 103, I have a fact. Our fact for episode 103, our Tracy Hickman / Ravenloft / everything else going on in his life episode is great characters have great stories, and real vampires don't freaking sparkle. So we want to thank you so much again, Tracy, and Laura. We want to thank you for being on the show for that much time.
I'm going to throw in a quick plug here too.
Sure.
I want to thank Adam for being here.
Yes.
And check out the Side Project podcast.
That's right.
Yep. Absolutely.
We're good at plugging here. If
I
you can't
appreciate
tell.
it. Well, you
Shameless
plug the
plugging.
hell out of yourselves on our shows.
That's right. And for all of you booters who weren't able to get out here to Gen Con today,
Shame.
yeah, right, shame. But we love you guys, and we hope everything's okay, and we can't wait to see and talk to you guys next. And yes, Adam?
DrewCon.
DrewCon, yes,
Well,
next
DrewCon
year.
for a
Yes,
second?
please.
Go for it.
For those of you who aren't aware, for booters specifically who aren't aware, but anybody that's listening, you're welcome to come too. DrewCon is going to be temporarily, potentially replacing Fear the Con next year, as Fear the Con 9 is not happening in 2016. So, June 3rd and 4th in St. Louis, but it's at a different brewery. It is in the Brentwood Brewery
That's
as opposed to
the real big one next to, or near...
It's not near the convention center. It's
Is it near Granite City where we had... Because I know that there's a really big one over there, too.
Probably.
Okay.
Derek actually knows
Brentwood.
more. Yeah, it's in Brentwood.
Brentwood?
Derek really knows more about it than I do, so you could talk to him about it. But you should come out. It's going to be, you literally, all you have to pay for is your room, and but there's no bells and whistles. There's our unofficial title for this con is No Drama Con.
Oh, no DramaCon.
No Drama Con.
That sounds like some sort of tome.
It kind of does.
No DramaCon.
But the biggest thing is that we're trying to avoid is, there's not going to be, like there has been for Fear the Boot, there's not going to be catering, or Fear the Con, excuse me, there's not going to be catering, there's not going to be, literally, you get your room, we're gaming right in the hotel,
Yeah.
And that's about it. That's really the point. So
Drury
come out,
Convergence.
Yeah, exactly. So come on out. If you've never been to a Fear the Con, that's fine. It's not at all like Fear the Con. If you just want to come out and see a bunch of your friends from Fear the Con,
Yeah, absolutely.
a bunch of them are going to be there, and everybody's welcome.
All right.
That includes you, Tracy. I know
Okay,
St.
thank you.
Louis. Yeah.
It's in St. Louis, so...
I mean,
If you came, I would
Well,
eat the
don't
cost
think
of
I've
your
been
room
to
too.
I don't think I've been to a convention in St. Louis. We should do that. I know I haven't been to a convention on the East Coast for decades, literally.
Yeah.
And they wanted me at Boston Comic Con. I felt badly I couldn't make it this year because my daughter's getting it.
Congratulations.
That's the reason to not go
Good
to
job,
a
Dad.
That's right.
Right.
That's right,
Yes.
doggone it. Well, we love you guys. If you came to Gen Con, we hope you had a great time. If you didn't come to Gen Con, there's always next year.
And you should go.
And you should go. No
This
excuses.
is my first year coming to Gen Con.
Boom.
Right now, you should go.
Boom!
Oh,
Keith Bird.
I'm still not saying Indiana is the gaming
That's okay.
capital of the world.
Not yet.
We are.
That's
We
all right.
will.
You don't have to say that.
As we speak.
All right, we love you guys, and we will see you on episode 104.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Please visit us at www.theestablishedfacts.com and our Facebook page, facebook.com/theestablishedfacts. If you would like to support us by buying some merchandise, visit catholicpress.com/castingrobot.